Hey, it's a beautiful day out here in the desert. I've been thinking about what to make my next video about, and I think I was going to make this one about time preference, which is a concept that more people will come to understand is necessary to beat or to win this battle we're in against these little pecker skin goblins at the World Economic Forum and the UN and different foundations that think they're going to phase out the right to eat meat and think they're going to make all the big four packers into protein companies that sell alternative so-called meat made out of soy slop or pea protein or lab-grown cell culture, what have you, that think that they're going to popularize the eating of bugs in the good old USA. And that's not a future that I want to be a part of, or nor will I. But in order for us to defeat this, we'll have to make popular the idea of some of the economic ideas that are used against us all the time in the way we eat and the way we live, think about money and saving. And time preference is one of those. It's basically the idea that a short time preference or a high time preference is the choice to basically the action. It's basically making choices to benefit yourself in the short term, like eat a whole bag of Doritos. It tastes awesome. Or it can be anything it can be economic things, and it can be just life choices that will determine that your outcome for different types of success. So like if you do not exercise, because do not work out, lift weights, or you don't do anything physically active because it hurts in the moment, that's your time preference is in the here and now, very, very high, very short. Whereas if you put off eating things if you choose not to eat hyper palatable foods, and know that if you eat well and eat good food for a certain length of time, a lot of times it's only a couple weeks or a month, then your body will start to recognize better food and start to enjoy it more. And so that's why as palatable as eating Doritos and drinking Pepsi is, I basically don't do it very often. And so I get way more pleasure out of a large ribeye or two cooked medium rare, maybe with some homemade sourdough bread and a little bit of whiskey or beer. And that's another thing, alcohol, if you use it in excess without a lot of virtue around it, that's a high time preference activity, because you're basically going to feel good right now, or that's your choice. Whereas it has consequences in the long term if you overdo it and if you don't modulate your behavior, then you will not have a good outcome. But anyway, so that's time preference from a health perspective, as far as eating. So like if you make the choice to eat well and do some fasting and kind of reset your metabolism, you can basically save yourself and prevent yourself from all the modern day diseases that plague so many people, like type 2 diabetes and heart disease, anything caused by inflammation. Now, it's not medical advice. I'm just saying that if you believe in that eating well will allow you to reset your metabolism and even the way you taste things and what you enjoy, that's a high time preference decision or way of living. Now, I believe also that if your time preference is too low, or too longs, depending on how you use the phrase. If your time preference is too low and you never ever do anything that you enjoy because you're putting it off for a future day when you're going to retire when you're 79 and everything's going to be good then, well, that's equally destructive to your personal well-being and health, probably. So, like, you can't, the ability to restrain yourself or give up certain good things in a moment because you know it's good for you, that's good. But if you can take it too far, just like any virtue can become a vice when it's applied too extremely. And that's why there's a golden mean in there, and a lot of times it's just on the right side of little. Well, if on the left you have high time preference and on the right you have low time preference, then right there in the middle and right to the right in the middle, a lot of times is going to be a sweet spot where you'll be able to enjoy things day to day, but also accomplish what you have in mind, like becoming a stronger, healthier human that's less liable to be dependent on the modern medical system, less liable to need to take certain medications to manage the obesity and inflammation caused by the normal American diet. And it's kind of funny for me to be talking about this. Even though I've read a lot about it, I'm not really a diet guy, but I think you look around in America and you see the destruction that's wrought by people not understanding this and by basically blindly following their whatever their general, well, basically just going along with the flow. If you go along with the flow right now, you're going to end up like 40% of the young people in America that became obese over the last 2 years, and I don't know what the exact numbers are, but a savage percentage of Americans are basically metabolically unfit and either obese or overweight. And that's a weakness in this country that was exploited by certain pathogens that create worse outcomes for people that are so-called healthy. Oh, he was healthy. Yeah, he was healthy. Well, he probably never. Well, it all you can measure it yourself by looking at your fasting blood sugar levels, and if you want to go down that road, you can read something by Mark Sisson or there's Dr. Sean Baker. There's any number of resources on the internet that are reliable sources that have a proven track record of being honest, unlike basically the whole mainstream. So that's enough about diet with the time preference. Really, anything you do, just any activity or profession. Like when I learned to shoe horses, I went to school when I was 19 to shoe horses. Well, no one's very good at it, for a few years or months or years, and like a lot of times it takes 4 or 5 years before you're really worth a shit at all when you're shoeing horses. And I didn't know it at the time, but when you dedicate yourself to something, a craft or something like that, then that's a low time preference activity, and the only way, and day to day you may suck it up and mess up, and you keep trying to do better. Eventually you become good at something, and anything that's worth doing is going to take a lot of time investment. And so that's why to me it's really important to think about what you're doing. I've had guys come to me that were going to start shooting horses, and I say, well, that's great and it's awesome if you want to do that, but you got to think long and hard, because the amount of effort and dedication and focus it takes to become good at that, to get into the top 10% of horseshoers and make a hell of a lot of money, the amount of time it takes, you could apply that to playing guitar or whatever the thing is. You could be dang near professional. It's not that it's rocket science. It's just the simple matter of the time it takes to develop that skill and get a feel for it is, I mean, if you put that into, I just kind of randomly put it into horseshoeing because I wanted to be a cowboy, and then thought, well, I'd do that, and then I'd go out west and work in a pack outfit or something. That was a train of thought I had when I was about 19, and I never basically just stuck to shooting horses, even though learned later, you know, well, that's another story. But anyway, developing a low time preference is what allows you to develop any significant skill. And I read a book, there's a pretty cool book called The Rise of Superman by Stephen Kotler. It's all about flow and neurochemistry and he talks some about time preference in there, not from an economic standpoint, but purely from talking about what makes some people able to focus long enough to become like an Olympic snowboarder, you know, and do tricks off of those jumps and stuff. And he basically broke down the neurochemistry that's involved in people that are really impulsive and you want it all right now, and a lot of those people that get into that, you know, the extreme skiing, they're not really like, they are kind of impulsive, you know, to be stereotypical. I'm not saying that all of them, but like he said, that neurochemistry of flow, of getting into a flow state while you're doing something you love, can prolong your time preference and make you stick to something longer, in the same time as it can shorten the time preference if someone is too studious and tries too hard and doesn't ever have fun, and it can have the same effect to shorten it for someone that needs it. And that sounds funny today, you know, not many people probably need their time preference shortened at this time, but there are people that are like all work and no play Jack, and it makes a boy dull. And that, if we're gonna beat these old pecker skins, old little goblin trolls like Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab, we gotta have fun doing it. You know, we're gonna eat a lot of steak, play some music, learn how to, you know, party, you know, somewhat with a little bit of virtue, where you're not destroying your brain every time you get hammered. Anyway, that's my vision of kind of the way forward, is how basically all these enemies we have, like, think of us as like inconsequential human little peons, and think that they can dictate how we act and how we live. And if we act like little inconsequential peons by eating shit food and getting drunk every day, or whatever the thing is, where we're not demonstrating any self-responsibility, self-reliance, independence, like actual free humans are supposed to. You know, liberty is not about the freedom to do what you want, it's about the freedom to do what you're responsible for and what God created you to do. So that's my little rant for today. Hope you got something out of it and can start thinking about time preference and the activities that we do to further our objectives in this fight against these little sorry motherfuckers that gonna try to outlaw eating steak and make cattle a climate hazard. And Lord knows, I hope it's all came together in a way that's somewhat coherent. And if it didn't today, ask me a question and I'll put it back together a little tighter next time. But I'm just putting this out there and knowing it's going to hit somebody that'll click with someone, and it'll be good. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate you hanging around this long. I hope you enjoy this fine Arizona scenery. And I will be back shortly with more videos. So adios.